Hello and welcome to our tutorial and overview of Google Drawing. Today we are making campaign posters for someone fictional or non-fictional, someone we'd like to see run for president. And what might their campaign poster look like and what might it say? I'm going to walk you through the steps of making this poster and try and introduce you to as many tools and pieces of Google Drawing as possible. Okay, so let's see how this goes. We're going to get rid of all of this, and I guess your first lesson is one of the options you have in Google Drawing is if you want to group select things, you can hold down Shift and select things, or you can just highlight everything. And in this case, I'm going to get rid of this and try and recreate it to the best of my ability, and along the way show you some of the easiest things to do in Google Drawing. So let's delete it, say goodbye, we'll come right back to it. Okay, the first thing is, maybe I'm ahead of you right now, maybe you've never ever seen Google Drawing before, but it is located and it can be accessed in your Google Drive. So you just go to Drive and hit New, and for a drawing you have to go to More. And at any time, if you need to pause, it's always good to pause, catch up, start again. That's the beauty of a screencast. And you just select Google Drawing. Okay. One tip I like to tell my kids is if you're trying to organize your drive, select the folder that you want it to be saved in first. So this is my sample for one of my students. Let's say I was putting it in the Google Intro folder. I would select that folder, hit New, and then go to Drawing. And once you do that, you will get a blank canvas. And here's where you title it. I would suggest creating some sort of naming convention so your files in Drive are more organized when you're using this for your students. But here's where we're going to be working. Something else that's very important, especially if you plan on printing this, is the page setup. And that might dictate what kind of poster you make. And you can do that by going to File and Page Setup. You can choose the standard. You can go to widescreen, two options for widescreen. I believe the one you're seeing now is 16:9. Or you can go to Custom and figure out, different poster sizes, or if it's going to be on a standard piece of paper, you can change it to inches. You can go by centimeters, you can go by pixels. So adjust it as you see fit. If you want a wide poster, a tall poster, that's completely up to you. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that we'll look at is the toolbar. And here you can see a lot of the features that Google Drive or Google Draw has to offer. Drawing shapes, text box, all kinds of stuff, images, and then you can insert all kinds of stuff. We'll look at word art. And you can go to obviously shapes and tables and comments too if you're doing this and sharing it with others. But we need to find a picture. Now, if you want to have your picture drawn, you are more than welcome to try and use a drawing tool. The ones I would suggest are like a curved line. You'd have to be a pretty good artist. You could always trace a drawing of your person if you really wanted to get artistic, but we don't have time for that today. Or you could use a curved line or a polyline. And if that sounds interesting, there is some stuff on the resource page about vector drawings, and there is a guy named Josh Pomeroy who does some really cool stuff with that. But you can check that out later. So let's just find a picture of your person. So for me, it's going to be Bob Marley. And a tool that I love is the research tool. And that can be found under Tools and Research. Now it takes you right to a Google search and select images. And more importantly, for using this in the classroom, if you want your kids to be good digital citizens, you can also go to free to use or share or modify even commercially. So you don't have to worry about copyright. And let's type in a search of Bob Marley. And here we go. I think the image I've been working with is right here, and we're just going to drag and drop it into our drawing. Okay, so let's work on our picture. If, by the way, you want to insert your own picture, just go up to the image icon up here, click it, and you can upload images from your computer. You can take a snapshot, URL, Google Drive. I like this little search feature because it accesses Google and Live Photos, and it gives you opportunities for more free-to-use pictures as well. But we have our picture, so I'm going to move it around. And if you notice, Google Drawing gives you a nice tool that helps you pinpoint the center here, and if you want to move it over to the center of this way, you can find yourself right in the middle if you wanted to. I'm not going to put mine there. I'm going to come up to the corner, and it's going to give me a nice line of red around. And then I'm going to drag it down and take up pretty much that much of the page. I want a nice big picture of Bob. And what you probably are seeing is a transparent background with checkers, which can be very useful if you want transparency, but you probably don't. So in order to get that, you right-click on the background and go to background. And I'm going to stick with a white background, a little black and white. And the next step is going to involve using the Shapes tool, which is a very useful tool. Okay, so the Shapes tool is right in the toolbar right here. You see the circle and square. And I'm going to use the Shape tool to give myself like a background for some text. There are all kinds of ways that you can use it though. So let's see here. The shape I want, I can go down to shapes, I can put in arrows, and there's some other symbols in there, call outs, equations, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, you want to put in a heart, you can put in a heart. And you know, a lot of people do some really cool things with the shapes if you're creative. You can make little characters out of shapes. My students do it all the time. But for now, I'm just going to use the rectangle shape. I'm going to select it, and I want to give myself a background for text, and I'm going to run the shape right against Bob. Okay, I'm just going to do it like that, and like I said, it tells you when you're on the line, and it gives me this kind of ugly blue color. So if I look up here, I can change the fill color, I can customize it, I can adjust the transparency, I can make it transparent, but that's not what I'm going for. I want a nice black solid background. I can click off of it completely, and here I have Bob. And if I want, you know, for the sake of time, I'm not going to, but you can adjust it so it, you know, looks perfect, however you want. And now I have a nice background. I've changed the color a little bit, and I can insert some text here. And that's what the next portion is going to be. So let's do that. There's two options. One is a text box where I can just draw it in, type some text, move it the way I want it to go, where I want it to go, change the font, the size, text color, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do a different option though, which is inserting some word art. And so I'm going to go to Insert Word Art, and it gives me a little box here that I type my phrase. It's definitely not good for long quotes or anything like that. So I have a short phrase. Of course, we're talking about Bob Marley, so we're going to go one love. And I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to give me a nice big text background with, you know, borders on it that I can adjust and fill color. I can change it to Droid Sans. I can change the fill color. I'm going to go with red, and I can change, I can make it bold. I could change it to a different if I wanted to, but for now I'm going with Droid Sans. And I'm also going to take away the line color. I don't like line color. I'm going to have to resize it so it fits over in my black box here, so I'm going to hold down Shift. It's a good thing to know because if I just start adjusting it, it gets like squishes it or it makes it all messed up. So if I'm gonna undo both those, and if I hold down Shift, it resizes it without messing up the dimensions really. And I need to kind of work my way down here, keep going till I find. Remember to hold down Shift, find the right size. Let's see how I'm doing there. Look, I can find the center just like that. I'm going to want to go down just a little bit more, find the center, and see how it looks, and see if that's where I want it. Okay, I'm going to add a couple more phrases down here, so in the next section they're just going to pop up. But that's how you resize, that's how you use WordArt. Feel free to look up all kinds of fonts. They have those there, and it's a nice little tool. You can rotate it, you can do whatever you want. So I've added some more detail to it, some more phrases. One Love, One Nation, Marley 2016. I've tried to take you through everything and show you as many tools as possible. I would encourage you to look at some of the other resources when you have more time. Obviously, there's so much more stuff you can do, and there are longer screencasts, and there are people who've dedicated entire channels to this. So before we go, we'll talk about sharing. Next, let's talk about sharing, because that's one of the great features of Google applications. You can share it, you can comment it very easily with your colleagues and your students and with the world. So just like all Google Docs or anything in Google Drive, the share button is in the top right. And what I would advise your students to do, or you'd have your students do, you can get the shareable link, but before that you need to go to Advanced and change it to, for me, this is through my school district, so I have various options. Generally, you want to go anyone with a link. Just public it can show up in searches. So I'm going to go to anyone with a link, and I'm going to go down to Access and go to Comment, because if I want my students, working with each other and giving feedback, I want to allow them to comment. And I'm going to hit Save and hit Done. And now if I want to paste the link to a form, if I'm doing it that way, there's a nice little Copy Link button. Thanks for watching. Hope you got enough to get you started with Google Drawing, and I think you're going to have some fun, and your students will enjoy it as well.